Dude, so this is my thing is like, we know that there hasn't been a cultural movement since like the 60s that's not been co-opted by an intelligence agency.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would allow something that has any promise as a grassroots movement to go very long without being co-opted. That being said, I think with the advent of social media, it's way worse than it used to be. It's way worse. And I see, to your point, Shane, you were talking about a tweet that I made where it's like, I made a thoughtful post. There's a rise of like Hitler admiration. And it's because people are discovering that, you know, things that happened in the Weimar Republic and how many people, 20 million people died and the Bolshevik Revolution and all these different things. And maybe we were lied to about the Nazis and maybe we misunderstood Hitler. And I'm like, I can start to see that sentiment, you know, because the way history is written, it's often a lie. Right. So, you know, I can get behind that and that's fine. But then all of a sudden it jumps to this like admiration for Hitler. And I go, well, this just seems a little bit strange. It wasn't long ago that we were complaining about Operation Paperclip. You know, NASA is created by Nazis that, you know, we took after the war ended, and we put them in positions of power in these various industries that now today you look at them and they're you know, monumental industries. And so it wasn't that long ago that was the discussion. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe Hitler was based. Right. And I go, well, you know, there's a lot of during this conversation that's been unfolding on Twitter for the past couple of years, there's been a rise in what I would say in like traditional values, Christianity, Catholicism. And there's this sentiment that somehow Hitler was Christian or he was Catholic. And I didn't go above and beyond to like do this deep dive. I just said, hey, let's look at the iconography. Let's see what's surrounding Hitler. He does a speech from the Zeppelin Tribune, the fairgrounds that were designed. The area that he gives a speech for or from was designed after the Temple of Zeus, the altar at Pergamum. Yep. In the Bible, it says that Pergamum is where the throne of Satan is, and Pergamum is ancient Turkey. And in ancient Turkey is where they found the Temple of Zeus. And that's what they designed their fairgrounds after. And it's like there are images that are associated with Zeus. Certainly the Greek architecture, which is fine. I understand that a lot of that bleeds over. We just had a discussion with Jeremy Slate about the bleeding over of architecture from ancient Greece into even modern day America. Of
course.
But what about the eagle, for example? He was his number one animal that he would transmutate into was an eagle. What about the lightning bolts? You know, what about a man in a suit with a giant eagle behind him, lightning bolts on his chest, giving speeches from the altar of Zeus, the Temple of Zeus?
Methed out.
Yeah, super methed out.
Right, which is a fantastic way to commune with entities. Not a single Christian or Catholic icon to be found, but there's a ton of Zeus veneration. So that's the post that I made. I did a little bit of research. I added some sources in there, thought it was great, fell on deaf ears. I go over and I say, how about this one? Very low effort, Shane. Very low effort. I go, it's the Jews. And just it takes off. And I go, wow. And I don't know if that's because you silenced the conversation and created a pressure cooker of an environment where now that pressure cooker is burst open and there's an overcorrection, or if there's something more nefarious behind it. But to Top's point, it's like when Elon Musk responds to your Jew joke meme,
right,
and boosts it, you gotta have to go, is there something else going?
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
As someone who's been making fun of the Jews for the last 3 years, it's been very difficult because it's not been allowed. And that's why I've been doing it specifically.
But you have a Jew fro.
How dare you?
He's
Sorry,
Hasidic.
I had to.
Top is Hasidic Jewish. No one knows this.
That explains it. You're from Long Island too, aren't you?
You're both Puerto Rican, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, so I've been kind of doing this, making fun of, because my idea is to touch on the comedy or the things that aren't allowed to be said. That's what I like to do. Yeah. And now it's allowed to be said. Right. And now again, with like same thing with Tucker Carlson, I'm like, I'm going to take a step back and say, why? Right. Why are we allowed to say it?
Yeah. I think that's the interesting thing is, okay, they stopped the whole world for basically like it was COVID when Kanye did what he did. And then Elon owned Twitter, and he had the biggest problem with it. I was with Kanye when Elon said he wanted to punch him in the face over all that stuff on Alex Jones with the Hitler comments. And now Elon owns Twitter, and it's just amplifying all of those posts. And it's so fun. And when he liked your thing, do you think he even knew the joke? Like, I think he just saw the image of Mel Gibson looking jacked and liked it. Like, I'm not sure if he, like, did it go over his head, or was he like, this is funny? I wonder what you think his interpretation of that was.
How well do you think Neuralink works?
Well, I have talked to people with Neuralink.
It was like, because I've asked, Owen Benjamin he made a joke recently. I think it was about Candace Owens or something like that.
Right.
And he was like, do you guys get this? Because I'm getting like a lot of hate. So I took it, copy, paste, put it into Grok. I said, what does this mean? And Grok is like, this is clear. It's controversy, but it's also comedy. And he's doing it for this, and this is the reason. I was like, yeah, exactly. So they know. So I think Elon knows. You don't get high. He got high in his own supply. You always test your product. He's got this thing in his head probably. So he sees it. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's also not it's not a surprise. Well, actually, I guess it is a surprise. He banned Kanye after Kanye posted the Raelian sign, which there's a lot there, right? It's the swastika inside of the Star of David, but it's actually a sign for fallen angel worship, the Raelian cult.
The Raelians, yep.
A lot.
And there's a connection, I think, between Elon and the Raelians, wasn't there? People were saying that there was some, like, an award given to him or something. I could be... maybe I dreamt that, but I feel like people are making that connection. I'm putting it out there as if it's true anyway. But yeah, it's weird to me. And it was weird to me to see Elon freak out about that type of language, only to have it, Twitter become what it's become. And then I think, like, well, what's next? And is it to just keep us all mad at each other? Do you think they're even aware of why this is? Is just an ancient darkness that humans have to participate in, to be mad at one another and blame people, and we get nowhere, because it seems like we just repeat the same things over and over.
Here's my suspicion. This is something that I play around with, that I worry about. It's like, the buck doesn't stop at the Jews, right? The buck goes beyond that. We believe that wholeheartedly on the show. We predominantly talk about spirituality. We are engaged as a species in spiritual warfare at all times. This goes beyond the physical realm.
Right.
But what you've done here is you've created a culture of noticing. I often have this analogy of, like, when I was a kid, I was 16, 17 years old. I was waking up to all this stuff. I was alone in that sentiment. No one was around to reaffirm the things that I was trying to bring to their attention. And thankfully, that was the case, because I went on to be wrong several times. Now, what I'm concerned about is everyone's going through this great awakening, right, Shane? It's like, in this moment, everyone is discovering all this. Really, kind of COVID, I think, was responsible for that.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think that me being wrong was indicative of me being a young man, as much as it was indicative of a human being who is coming to terms with the fact that the official narrative was a lie all this time.
Yep.
And that kind of freaks you out. And you jump to a lot of conclusions. Now, what happens when 4 years ago, everybody starts to wake up and everybody is on there's so many people that are at the beginning of this journey. And what's happening now is, number one, they can look around and be affirmed by other people. I had no one. Right. But now you can look left and right, and there's a whole community of noticers out there. Yeah. Now, what happens when you put this in front of them and you go, here's the source of all your problems? When in the Bible, it says that in the end times, there's going to be, the synagogue of Satan, these people that are claiming to be Jews but are not Jews.
Right.
And I'm wondering, is that what we're experiencing right now? But the buck is stopping at the Jew.
Well, yeah, because I think they don't want you to look any further. I think evil transcends evil's every pocket. Evil's in churches and synagogues. It's in mosques. People are evil, and they're all over the place. And, like, the world is just dark. And like I said earlier on Twitter, all the problems we're facing today started after the fall of man, and everything's just kind of snowballed out of there. And it's nothing new. It's human nature. Evil's everywhere. And I think once you start to put your idea of evil in a silo, you're now blinding yourself to all the other evil that's out there. And it allows other evil to come in and then hijack your perception of evil and keep you stuck in that. And there's no progress, and like real progress, not the bad kind of progress, like progress towards God, not progress towards hell, which is what most people on this planet seem to be wanting. But yeah, Twitter is in my mind, part of the engineer of the false reality. And it was awesome when Elon initially bought it, this is funny. I don't think I've ever said this, and I've talked to Top a lot. One of the first interactions I ever had with anyone in Tower Gang was the weekend Elon announced buying Twitter. And remember that day when like Twitter just seemed open all of a sudden? Like people were talking and there was like engagement all over. Someone, it might have been Jose, I forget who it was, Tower Gang just kind of fell out of the abyss all of a sudden. Like, who are these crazy? Oh, these people are nuts. I love these people. So I do want to thank Elon for bringing us together. But it's become something such different. Like I was hoping to keep it the way it felt that day, where it's like there was no gates. And now there's gates, and the gates are kind of siloing you down to different perception paths, and you're getting stuck in it. And that's worrisome because it's basically just what the TV did. And I grew up hating the TV because it did that to the people older than me. I'm watching them watch their specific news channel, and they believe everything that news channel says. But you click up one channel or down one channel, and there's just a whole different world that people are digesting. Now Twitter is that, but like I've been calling it the reality buffet. Like you were saying, Raven. Anything you want to be true, just go up and find it, and you can have a whole community now to back you up. And it's wild stuff, man. But I don't know, how do we break that? What is it? I know how to break it. I mean, I know my own answer. It's God. But like, how do we convince people to help break it?
Oof. You gotta find like the back door, right? Like, I think comedy worked for a little while. I don't think it's working much anymore. I think that they're keen to some of the sarcasm that people are using. I don't know if you even can break this. And we are kind of late in the game, in my opinion, to break this stuff. It's like, I think the reason Tucker Carlson is now talking about aliens being demons or spiritual entities from another dimension is because the J stuff is kind of out there, and that will wear off soon. And the truth underneath, they have to create this soft landing, right? So we're quickly headed towards something. I say it a bunch, and it's not a prediction, but I think that we're going to be headed towards really, really strange stuff that's in your face, and people will just accept it like it's normal. And I'm talking about like actual like Nephilim. Like, have you seen these AI videos? This is just a thought. Like, I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but
do it.
They just put in, I don't know what kind of prompts they're putting in. They're putting pictures, and AI is just transmuting them into these horror story movies. And it looks like, it'll be like a teddy bear, and then he turns into like a dragon, and the dragon eats the person that's snowboarding or whatever is going on. It's just bizarre acid trip, right?
Yeah, sometimes I think about it, and it almost looks like a dream emulator. And I know a lot of people are saying that lately. Like, there's something up with AI videos that the transitions and the overall like haunting feel and the confusion somehow seems to be like they created a dream emulator. But I think, to your question, Shane, it's like, how do we stop this? I think people need to, there are all of these symbols, right? They surround all of the secret societies, and it's what populates the satanic imagery that's all over the music videos in the music industry, and it's all over the Hollywood films that Hollywood's producing. And it's strange to me that we've stopped at the door of a group of people that we think are responsible for all of our ailments. And the thing about that is that I think we were engineered to feel that way. It's like we're so destitute in this moment, and we're so desperate, and we want two things. We want a clear identifier as to who the enemy is, and we want a hero to swoop in and save us. That's a very dangerous place to be, because if they can effectively convince you that a group of people are the enemy, and if they can put a hero in place, it's like Albert Pike, author of Morals and Dogma, when the people need a hero, we shall provide one for them. If they can create an enemy, and right now we're in the middle of those throes. We're suffering because of you. You're controlling this industry. You're controlling that industry. You're creating the predatory loans. You're running the porn industry. You're cranking up the propaganda. Once those cries reach a height, if they put somebody in place that's going to play the hero for us, that's a very dangerous place to be. But I do think that we've been culturally engineered, because like I said, there's no such thing as culture, in my opinion, anymore. It's been engineered since as long as we can remember, probably, in human history. I don't think there's ever been a time where there's not been a shady group who's trying to push this ideology and curb that ideology. But it is interesting that as a people, we've gotten to the door, and the door is covered in like sigils and symbols and all of this connection to these like, you know, spiritual entities. And we're looking at the flesh instead of like, well, what the hell does that mean? Because really the revelation that I'd like to see, the big realization, the big awakening that I'd like to see people engage in isn't the people with the little hats are subverting us. It's wait. There are spiritual entities out there. And all of our consent and all the things that we engage in are feeding one spiritual entity or another. And we better make sure that what we're participating in, it's like what Owen Benjamin says. It's basically extreme accountability, right?
Yeah.
It's like instead of looking to somebody else as the source of all your woes, take responsibility for every little thing you do, because everything you do is feeding something spiritually. What are you feeding?
The exact opposite of the victimhood culture that we live in, which seems connected to all that.
By the way, Shane, is the thing that we have been railing against for the past, I don't know how many years, is victimhood culture. And then all of a sudden, they gave us a bad guy, and we're just lapping it up and being good victims.
Don't you see, everyone, that when you start to hate something so much, you become it. Like, it just happens all the time. And people need to watch out. And I also, when you're talking about like the people arriving to that door, it's almost like on a widespread scale, we're self-sabotaging as a society. It's like, because once you open it, you can't close it, and there's no going back. We're close though, because I really do believe lockdowns accelerated the existential renaissance of everyone opening up their minds and being like, oh, well, you've been lied to about. They're lying to us about yesterday and today. Of course they lied to us about 100 years ago, 50 years ago, you know, everything. So I do believe that, and I think we need to pray to God more. And I think God, I go to church. I went to church twice today, and it was amazing. And I feel great. I feel great. I don't think people need to go to church, but I think people should believe in God. But like, I like going because I like being in a community of people and having my kids see that, the importance of it. And for me, I feel like creating that foundation is one way of shattering all the illusions, you know, because for me, it's just one truth, right? And if my kids can see that, which I didn't have growing up, you know, I had like the illusion of that. It wasn't very serious. And then I was anti that for a long part of my life, which is in itself was like a form of like substance abuse, you know. It opened up bad holes in my soul. So that's what I've been doing, and it feels great.